So thank you everyone for joining us today. Today Vitality's doing a webinar with iGuide and Seek Now. And yeah, so why don't we the best place to start, I think, would be to kind of just do around the table introductions of who everybody is and just do a quick bio background. I'll start. My name is Clayton Erickson. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Vitality. And yeah, we'll just kind of go over whoever wants to take it over from next.
Sure. My name is Michael Vervenne. I look after sales and marketing for iGuide. Been with the company for 6 years now.
Hey, Clayton, Dave Peterson here with Seek Now. I'm Executive Vice President and responsible for strategic growth initiatives in our sales and marketing organization.
My name's Chris, and I'm a marketing manager at Planetar. And I've been with the company for just a bit longer than Michael. You know, no, I'm not bragging or anything, I'm just saying. And I help design some of the systems that are used to capture the data.
Cool. And I'm Chris Atkins. I'm also with Vitality. I'm CPO, and I've been with it from the very beginning. I'm a co-founder.
Cool. So we've been working with iGuide now for about, 6-7 months now, and they've got a really cool platform that can help building and facilities managers of all sizes being able to really visualize their buildings in different ways. Michael, do you mind doing an introduction of what makes iGuide different, what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it starts off, we have a camera system that both measures and captures property, and Chris is holding that up there. So what that is it's using a LiDAR laser system to measure out distances, capturing property data, at the same time high fidelity 360 panoramic views. And what that allows you to do is to be able to go into a space virtually, walk through it, understand that space, measure, and it provides key building and built space information so that you can, understand and have a comprehension of that space so that it enables decision making while you're working with virtual space. And so it just is an enablement tool for people managing large properties or a lot of properties.
So one of the things I was most impressed with when I first saw the iGuide platform is the ability for it to not only visualize a facility in a different way, but really be able to do like tracking and measurement of like spaces and prevent walkthroughs. I know I've spoken with a couple of our customers who have used the software, and one thing that continually comes back to me is just the feedback of, oh my gosh, this will eliminate walkthroughs, or can eliminate, can quickly do like fixture counts or something like that. Do you mind elaborating a little bit what you've seen in that area? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, so in essence, when you are, and maybe I'll take a step back and just start with the process so there's an understanding of how it works. So using our camera system to document those spaces so that you can understand the elements within that built world. It starts off with being able to capture. And so there's a couple different methods to do it. This is where Seek Now comes in as a national partner. They have that ability to, deploy multiple cameras across multiple states and, thousands of boots on the ground in order to go in and capture and document all these properties. At the same time, what you're capturing is room measurements, area calculations. You're going to see what's in those spaces. So things like furniture, assets, and you're able to go in there and virtually document all those spaces. So, or the elements within those spaces. So, if it's understanding what's in a mechanical room in terms of a furnace or a boiler, that ability to go there, see the last time, and if you have to have some work done on it or share that virtually with someone else, you're able to tag them and bring them into that space immediately so that they can see, how they're going to work in that space. And I seem to be saying the space a lot, so I'm going to back up here for a second. It's probably easier to demo some of this. So are you okay if you wanted me to show you some of the different features and elements to this, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'm a show me, don't tell me type of guy. So let's see it in action.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen here. And hopefully you can see on my screen here, I've pulled up a dental office. This is a new dentist office that was captured. And so, within your built world, I mean, the baseline starts with a floor plan. So you understand that built world on the one side there, you'll see that there's this miniature map of the floor plan and how it's situated in the world. You can see down in the bottom left-hand corner there's a little compass. So it shows you true north and relatively where the building is in relation to that. Inside the space, it provides context because you can see where you are in that location with that tracking cone motion. So as I look around the room, that tracking cone motion, follows that. And so, you brought up elements in terms of what's in my built world here and what assets do I have. I'm able to quickly go in and see where the locations of they are, what furniture is in there, and what other elements that I want to, document. If it's lighting, beyond the furniture, televisions, or even because this is an office, I guess a medical space, in terms of what medical equipment is in that room, what ventilation, HVAC, and being able to give you a clear understanding and be able to document all that stuff.
So this is super cool. So I'm going to ask kind of a more high level question here. Let's pretend for a second I'm a facilities or director of facilities manager or whatever title. Why would I use this?
Well, I think there's a multitude of different reasons. It really, when it comes right down to it, is efficiencies. You have that ability to enter any space by a few clicks of a keyboard, and efficiencies. I think as facility managers, people managing buildings, you're typically dealing with either fires, dealing with contractors, people coming in and out of that space, understanding of space planning, how you're going to manage those buildings. And all of these things can be distractions from, probably your true focus is building a capital plan for managing all these properties. And so if you can keep on task in terms of managing those properties and be able to answer questions quickly, I think that's what allows you or enables anybody to be able to make decisions and understand and share key information about a space. So I'll give you an example. There's a facility management company that uses our services today, and they manage 1,000 retail locations for one of their clients. That client could be located across the country in a different state or province. And so that ability, say, if they have a problem with, let's say, some architectural asset like carpet, the carpet's ripped in one of the rooms. How do I have that ability to understand, is that architectural asset still being used? I don't know. Can you send me a picture of what it looks like? How does that fit into the context of the space? Can we just replace that square, or do we have to actually replace everything in that room? If we have to replace everything in that room, then I have to get contractors to go in there and bid on that. And this communication back and forth between the facilities management company, the manager of that retail space, and the person that's in control of that, there's a lot of back and forth, answering a lot of questions. And so what this does is it streamlines and gives you the ability to get on a screen share like this, go to that actual room, and they can call out, that's exactly where that ripped carpet is. You as a facility manager can identify that architectural asset. Yes, no, we don't use that anymore. We're going to have to upgrade to this. You can actually measure the space to figure out how much square footage needs to be replaced. And you can share that with 3 different contractors. You can lock off those rooms, so only those contractors only have views to those particular rooms, and they can quickly give you quotes. You get 3 quotes, or you put it out to RFP, and you get that work done. So that streamlines the process. And so for this particular client, it took a protracted process of 1 month of dealing with a small little issue like a carpet ripped down in 2 days. And so it manages that efficiencies and gets them back on track faster. So they're not constantly dealing with this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I can see why, if I was the facilities guy, that, not only could I quickly identify, size of space, but like I can identify, I can measure carpet space and get accurate bids. I know one of the feedbacks that I've received from some of my clients is that during like especially the what post-COVID type era is that you were able to do walkthroughs without having to do actually go on site, right? You can do mandatory walkthroughs without having to have the risk of a bunch of people walking through small mechanical rooms in small areas, and being able to visualize that data real fast remotely.
That's a great point. So other customers, we have institutional customers that are using our technology today. And I can give you a sample of one in our backyard in the city of Waterloo. They have documented a recreational space that is over 300,000 square feet. The one floor, has 4 hockey rinks in it, couple basketball courts, a soccer field, all indoors. And it's a massive facility. And they just added on, or I guess last year they went out to bid, and they had an RFP out to put on a multi-million-dollar library addition. So typically in the past, and I guess this is, still kind of in the era of the pandemic, typically in the past, they had mandatory walkthroughs of that space prior to the bid. What they did now is they allowed a virtual walkthrough of the space. What feedback that gave them as the city looking they could see from the analytics how many people actually went through that space, how many of them were unique visitors, how many of them were repeated visitors. They had people bidding on that project from further away. So typically they would only get local contractors bidding on that, maybe an odd contractor from further out, but they were able to get multiple bids from multiple contractors from cities further out. And so it made that bid a lot more competitive, and is something that they could go back to their stakeholders and their constituents to say, hey, we had this multi-million-dollar bid. We had people virtually walk through it, and we had more bids and making it more competitive in terms of what it is. The other benefit they had is that they documented that space both in and out. And so they have as state and condition of that space and of the roads, the parks around it, so that once that project is completed, everything is maybe put back to the way it was or what they agreed to, so that there's no discrepancies or I guess conversations about, no, it looked like this, no, it looked like that. They actually have it documented exactly how it looked, what the parks look like, and what the road conditions were in, so that everybody's on the same page at the completion of the project.
Yeah. So one of our biggest problems on the Vitality side, right? Vitality is an IoT data visualization company. We can pull data from all different types of platforms, chillers, boilers, VFDs, meters, whatever. One of our biggest problems that we see when we are with clients is that they don't have the data that exists. So what we have to do is one of our very first steps, and Chris can make some comments on this later, but one of our very first steps in this is we have to ask for floor plans, right? Because we need to tell them exactly what it's going to take to get the meters installed and back to whatever system. I'm always blown away when I'm dealing with some of these older organizations that have been around forever, when we ask for floor plans and they stare at us blankly like, right, you want what, right? And then they send us floor plans, and then when we actually go on site, how different the most updated plans are to what our contractors actually see on site. So I can see the massive advantage of being able to scan the system, get accurate, not only dimensions, all that stuff, but what I saw in your demo is the actual floor plan right there. That's like floor plans in real time, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's the base layer of everything in terms of a built world, right? Is having that floor plan, understand where you're in the space, where objects are, where elements are. And that's the beauty of buildings do change all the time. A lot of different building owners right now are going through accessibility changes in their buildings, making sure there's wheelchair doors and wheelchair ramps and all those elements, putting in elevators. And so what's nice is that you can document it ahead of time, but then you can go back in there and companies like Seek Now can go in there and quickly do updates and update just those portions of the floor plans where they've added that elevator, where they added in that accessibility door. And so now you can show before and after. And I can actually show you a quick example if you're okay with that. We'll go back
that'd be
to
awesome.
and just confirming that you see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. Just going to move just need to escape out of here. So there are, in terms of, even if it's a renovation or something that's changed, and this is, along that same lines, you can document a space, prior to any kind of construction or project management needs that you may have. You can actually capture that space during the actual construction to say, what has been done. What's nice about this is prior to the drywall going up, where all the electrical and all the plumbing is behind the walls. So once that space is completed, you have that documented. So then when you go back in and the finished space, and this is the same space all 3 times, where the wires are running and everything like that is through there. Tying it back to, your IoT data. And I think you've got some great examples. You probably have better examples than I have as with your case study as well. But that ability to add live IoT data. What's nice is when you have that floor plan there, providing context in the actual 3D walkthrough of the space, you can quickly navigate to that room that's most important to you. If I want to go to the kitchen and then see exactly what the kitchen is, I don't have to walk through this giant building like I'm walking through a store at IKEA to get to that location that I want to see. I just want to get to that kitchen section and I can get there easily and fast. Another thing is, tying in that data is you can add 3D tags into that space. They show up both on the actual 3D visuals, or you can see them on the actual floor plan. That's also a great way to navigate. So when you want to look at certain, IoT data, let's say on the water tank, I can navigate directly there. That same link would work tied back into, something like your system, where if you're describing the item and you have a description of the item, you have that data there. You can actually click on it and it'll take you right there to see what it looks like, so that you can identify if there's any issues or if you have to replace something. And I think you have a really great example, and maybe I'll stop sharing.
Well, I was going to say, could you also show for a few minutes real quick too?
Yeah.
One thing I like about this is sometimes, even like how we're talking, we don't have floor plans. We may have a general sketch of what we kind of think it is. What's nice about your system, if you can show them, is that with your camera, it's not just taking the camera, it's also taking basically the measurements, and it's doing it as a spatial recognition, so you can kind of fill in the gaps that you may not have had in the floor plan. It kind of even finalizes it. So I wanted to see if you could show them the measuring tool and that kind of a thing. Show them real quick.
For sure, yeah. So before I show the measuring tool, some of the outputs of what we've got, we'll provide those floor plans in either a PDF format, a DXF format, which will have that point cloud data in the actual DXF. You can use those files to pull into things like, CAD or Revit file or Autodesk. It's an Autodesk open format file type, or SVG. And then, to your point, in terms of, I'll run back up here measuring. I'll just go back to the main floor. We'll just go into the front room here. How about that to measure? Yeah. What allows you this ability, we have different measure modes. So if you think we're capturing with the LiDAR laser measurements out on distance, and then in that 3D tour, we're able to measure using photogrammetry. And so we're measuring on screen, gives you a bunch of different features. So the one I'll demonstrate by putting my mouse over onto the floor plan. I can actually measure right on the floor plan to understand distances if I want, the size of the room. And that allows me to see if, furniture is going to fit, or, doorways will allow me to bring in equipment, that kind of thing. We also have the ability to measure in 3D space in a couple different ways. And that was when I switch over to measure mode 2. You set a line or along a wall that you want to measure. And in this case, let's say I want to measure these windows that are along this wall. I have that ability to now zoom in and go, click on that window and actually show the measurements of that window, figure out sizes and dimensions. I also have the ability to measure in 3D space where I can measure between objects, if you will. And that is our third measure mode. So I'll just quickly jump to that. And what that is using, it's using triangulation between different objects within the space. And I'm measuring in 3D space in essence. So I quickly jump to a second panel, and this is where I confirm those measurements. And it gives me the distances in between those objects. So it's a very versatile tool in terms of having that ability to measure. And I think, everybody on this call probably can think of a bunch of different use cases for the ability to measure in 3D space.
Yeah, because that's what we've used them for a lot of times like that. It's for like pipes and where's the distance between this, really for pre-construction stuff. So that's why I'm glad you showed that. That's pretty cool.
Great.
So I want to take just a quick step back, and we kind of just jumped out of excitement right into software. On this call today, there's 4 different brands that have been mentioned. Like we've heard Planetar, Seek Now, iGuide, and Vitality. I think iGuide and Vitality has established who we are. I would like to kind of take the second to switch it over to Dave and see. And Dave, can you tell us a little bit about what Seek Now does and the value that you bring to this table? We're not hearing you, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay, thanks, Clayton. So yeah, Seek Now is a national data collection service really focusing on property data, in particular, looking at condition information. And we do most of the work we've done to date has been in the insurance industry. So we get deployed in the case of a claim, and what we're doing is looking at the condition of the property and helping determine what the situation is. We do other markets as well, real estate, residential real estate, and commercial. And we one of the areas that we decided to kind of go all in on is our interior 3D capture technology. So we have a very strong technology group based out of Atlanta, and we're evaluating different technologies all the time. For example, we have a competitive platform that we use in some of the real estate business that we have. We have mobile device technology we use for sketching things. So every problem has a different kind of tool that's the best tool for that problem you're trying to solve. But when it came down to kind of the most efficient and accurate data-rich solution out there, we settled on the iGuide product, and for a number of reasons. The thing that's most important to our clients is not just the rich data set they're getting, but also just the economics of it, right? The cost to scan and the speed and efficiency in which we can scan is really, really important. And iGuide technology really allows us to kind of be very, very competitive in the space. If you've looked at different LiDAR-based scanning solutions, this is a fraction of the cost when it comes to time and effort to actually capture this 3D space. The other thing that was super important to us, and when we work with a client on a project, depending on the scale of that project, number of buildings or certain assets that you want to see, what we've also done with the Planetar team and iGuide is we've fully integrated their technology into our proprietary inspection mobile app. So we guide our seekers out there when they hit a job site, depending on what the assignment is, through a data collection process. So what that means is, as they're scanning a space and they go into a room and they're driving the iGuide device through our mobile platform called Maestro, if we know we're identifying, let's say, for example, in the dentist's office, I need to tag certain assets, Maestro would guide them through those requirements, allow that seeker to actually capture the detailed photo, video, or any other detail, and actually place it right on the floor plan as they're scanning.
Cool.
So we get huge efficiencies, right, in how quickly we can move through a space. And so if you've got a number of buildings, you have kind of common types of assets you're looking for, we would work with you, build out a plan, do a proof of concept on one of the facilities or a piece of a facility to demonstrate that we got it right, and then run at it. The other nice thing about Seek Now is we have data collectors and all over the country. We support, you know, the big insurance companies and out there representing, whether it be State Farm or Nationwide or Allstate Insurance. And so our culture of technicians out there, data collectors, are very service oriented, very sensitive to, you know, working with the end property owner, whether it be consumers or in commercial space, where, you know, we're doing work for hospitals, we're doing work for pharmacies, we're doing, you know, you name it, all different kind of types of construction and building classification. So we're very excited. We're finishing our deployment across our entire network of seekers. They'll all be equipped and certified with iGuide here within the next 30 to 45 days, and are rolling it out across the country. So we're looking forward to meeting and talking to some of your Vitaly IO customers on how maybe we can help them explore this technology in their environment.
So Dave, how long does this take? Like this, you know, you've got a camera, you go, you set it up, you scan the room, and, you know, say I have a 200,000, 175,000 square foot building. Are you going to be there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Like, what does this look like?
No, we again, there's a bunch of efficiencies built in. So the way we can capture data along with the scans will make us a lot more efficient. Also, we can have multiple operators attacking a building at the same time. So if you got a 1 million square foot facility, we could literally have 10 people in there, and they'll probably knock that out in 2.5, 3 days. 1 million square feet, right? So we'll work with you. I'd say typically conservative, you know, a couple 100,000 square foot building, we probably have 2 people in there. They've got it there in a day and a half, 2 days tops.
I can speak to that as well. It's a little bit nerdy, so hold on. But the technology has a lot of advantages. It was designed to be ruthlessly efficient, and it is so for really large spaces, which is nice. But the way it works is that it captures measurements and images at the same time. Basically, so there's one step process. You place the camera, you push a button, it sort of captures information, and then you move throughout a property incrementally. So the amount of time taken really has a lot more to do with the size of the property more than anything else. But there are some really, really cool advantages. One of them being that it's non-linear. So in the real world, what happens is you have access to different parts of the property at different times. And with the iGuide technology, that's perfectly acceptable. You can shoot this half and then wait a bit and then shoot another half and then go back and shoot the other half. So that flexibility is really part of the speed equation. So it's not as simple as saying like, oh, you know, it'll take an hour to do this facility. In the real world, things are complicated, and iGuide the technology can work around those complications, which is, you know, sort of amazing.
No, sorry, Chris, a really great point. But on that same point, we have seekers all over the country. So it's nice as if they have to be interrupted, say there's certain parts of the facility, right? They're just not accessible, maybe for the day or that part of the day. Maybe you can't get to it for a week, right? The technology allows us to kind of come back and do that later, update those parts and pieces later. And we don't have to fly somebody. We have the local scan technicians pretty much in over 95 different markets across the country.
Yeah, the bonus is less hassle for the person doing the capturing, but also less hassle for the people who are in the facility and using it at that time. You can work around them, which is quite cool.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So how do you handle things like people working inside the facilities, or let's just say like privacy related issues, or even like IP on whiteboards or secret rooms that people don't like? You know, I say I've got tenants that are like, there's no way you're getting in here because I've got IP sitting on the counter.
You know, that is going to be a case by case situation. We've got the ability, obviously, to blur PI information, you know, or cover it up in advance if the space needs to be scanned. Access is certainly going to be something that we obviously are dependent on the property manager to get us in there. But we can be flexible in terms of timing and again do it in over time, right? Depending on the size of the facility and what you're looking to accomplish.
Cool. So Yeah, so just so I'm making sure I'm clear on how everything is going, right? We've got Planetar, who's the company that owns iGuide, and iGuide's the software. Seek Now is the scanning company. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
So if I say I'm interested in starting to get my building scanned, like what's the best place to start?
You want to jump in?
Yeah, don't
You can,
everyone
you
jump
can
in at
reach out.
once.
You can reach out to either myself or Dave, and we can connect. We can connect both teams. I mean, ideally, I would reach out to Seek Now because they can enable the technology. They're the ones who are going to be actually be the feet on the street and be able to, you know, we're providing our technology. They're using it, and what really comes down to it, and Dave really touched on this point. Depending on what your ultimate outcome is and your goals that you want to achieve, that's very important to define up front. And that's where the Seek Now team with their Maestro app really can outline those parameters to make sure that they're most efficient when they are going in there and capturing. And if there's specific needs that you need, there's specific needs or requirements that you have when you are longer term, what your outcome is with that capture process, if it's the floor plans, if it's a 3D tour, if it's being able to measure in that 3D space, identifying those up front so that the Seek Now team and their seekers can actually have a shoot protocol to make sure that they're delivering on that as well.
That's right. Yep. And the pause there too. I believe there's a contact form that we've worked on with you guys at Vitality that's available through the platform as well. So that might be a simple way to start. That comes to both of us. And to Michael's point, we'd reach out and have that kind of exploratory conversation first and figure out what's the best path forward.
So I got a couple of last questions, and then I am going to show our platform and show a real life client of how clients using it in the energy management space. Before we get into that, I would like to see just some high level questions. What is the biggest value proposition that you're seeing across the board that your clients are getting out of it?
Do you want me to take this one? So quite efficient, quite frankly, it's efficiencies, right? It's being able to manage multiple properties. I've talked to facilities managers that have never even stepped foot in some of the buildings that they manage. So how do you context, right? It provides context, understanding, and just makes you more efficient. I mean, everybody's tasked to build these capital plans and what goes into managing all that. And so having a fast and efficient way to capture and manage all this data and then be able to share it, to review it, to be able to be in that space so that you can document the information that you need to make decisions. That I think that's the biggest thing, is this enabling of decision making. So
yeah, we have one client that it's residential, but they're buying about 100 homes a month. And part of their process is when they buy the home, and their model is not to have their own field property management services organization. What they would rather do is work with local contractors. And to Michael's point, they're never going inside these houses where they're buying, right? They're acquiring this house. We're scanning what we call a construction scan. It's a house they just purchased that you need work done on that. And they're able to remotely work with the local vendors, exactly what we talked about earlier, to create scope, right? I need these walls painted. I need to replace this carpet. I need to update these appliances, whatever work needs to be done. And whether it's a home or whether it be a commercial structure, you can start to think differently about all the different vendors that you work with and the services that you offer. How can you become more efficient and avoid ever having to go on site, because you can do a virtual tour with them, in real time. I don't know if Michael didn't show that feature, but one of the great features there is you could get on almost like a collaboration, right? Where you can bring up the space and you can walk through the space with your vendor to answer whatever questions they may have, make sure they have what they need to create their proposal, never going on site. Big advantage there.
So let's talk a second about cost. Like what price ranges are we expecting for my hypothetical building here?
Yeah, so some of the wrinkles in the pricing just become the additional data collection pieces. So if we just say just doing the pure scanning and the drafting work that needs to come out, as they get into larger facilities, we probably need to tailor the pricing for you. based on your unique requirements. But I'd say a rule of thumb is you're going to be in the, I don't know, 6 to 8 cents a foot all in terms of scanning and drafting, and some amount of data collection. And then, again, just understanding the timing, how fast you need to go, or these other data points that need to be collected along the way, or extra drafting services that Planotar could offer down the road.
Okay, cool. Cool. Well, I'm going to take some time now and show how one of our clients is using this. So we worked with Seek Now and iGuide, and we had Salt Lake Community College's largest building. It's the Lifetime Activity Center building scanned earlier this year. And this is what I'm going to show everyone today is how their energy manager and some of their facilities people are actually use the software, as well as since it was like August, July, we did the scan. Some of the feedback we've gotten from as we've been demoing it and showing to other people that have been really helpful for us to do. So I will share my screen right now. And just confirming that everyone is seeing mine as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is Salt Lake Community College's platform. And what's cool about the iGuide inside the Vitality platform is we can bring it all into one central platform with one single sign-on. So I am going to go into our app section here. And I'm just going to come down to our iGuide app that we have sitting right here. Now, this customer's already connected. If they weren't connected, like Dave mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a form that can be filled out. If you're interested, we can give you a contact directly and you get a price directly through the Vitality platform. But because it's connected, we're going to be able to just single sign on right in and see Salt Lake Community College's platform. What's super interesting about this in my mind is, you can do all the look around, but I'm going to go right into their mechanical room. This is the world we live in, is the mechanical world. And some things that I've noticed that our customers are loving is the ability to quickly see if this chiller is running. Like it's November, so it's not. Hopefully it's not running here.
Yeah.
But typically when it's running, we've actually been able to see the readings and tell that the system is running just from clicking around from here. But one of my favorite things is on the submetering side, we can enter this electrical room here, and you can actually see the meters and quickly see the data directly from the Vitality platform and see it. So it's a kind of a cool way to be able to see where your devices are at, and which is a big problem in our industry, and being able to visualize exactly where they're at and see the data as they're coming directly from here. One thing that happened earlier, a couple weeks ago, when I was on a demo with another client, they were having a hard time understanding how the data all flows and works to Vitality. This is something that we've done tons of different diagrams on to try to show them. What I did during the demo is I actually came into the iGuide platform and showed them, hey, here's their solar meter, here's the main power, and here's their chiller meter. These are all wired together in a daisy chain, and you can see the pipe that's coming up through over here that's coming directly to our data acquisition server with the IP on it, and therefore connected to the internet. So it was able to show a real life solution of how our wiring diagrams work to be able to get it. So this is just some awesome stuff that our clients we've gotten a lot of good positive feedback of being able to put that data into one system. By the way, on the Vitality platform side, it's a two-way sync. So we can bring in these the PDFs that were mentioned earlier, the floor plans, as well as push the data into it. We can use the square footage of the scan to create EUI or other metrics based off of square footage, like use per square foot, et cetera, all from one central platform, which is what we are very excited about. So that's from the Vitality side. I only have really one last question for the group here, is kind of like what's next? What's the exciting feature that people could look forward to?
Well, I have some ideas where I know I want to go. I don't know if we have enough time. But as you saw, the idea that being able to bring information into your fingertips is kind of where you're going. The idea that when you're walking through, there's a lot of questions, like even in this one, we weren't able to show much, but these buildings are connected by tunnels.
Mm.
And so that right there is amazing because a lot of the distribution of the piping and that comes in these tunnels. But some of the questions we're having is we're even trying to use it for maintenance. As you saw in the, you may have caught it, is that we can connect not only the floor plans, we can also connect manuals. So if you have something wrong, you can be able to use the iGuide platform to be able to, be there, and you could click on and you can actually see the manual right there. You could even then have some other reports. Some of the, like I know a lot of the stuff we want to tie into is like for tasks and management, like, okay, for like work orders, how many work orders has this piece of equipment had? When you're out there in the field, you may have to go to one, you may have to go have a whole different source to grab it. With here, you can just use the iGuide. It's already got a link to it. You could be able to connect that kind of information. And so that's where we want to go with what we have. The other thing that I would look at is mostly just being able to see the data. You can be able to start saying like, oh, we could create dashboards that not only adjust for, say, each piece of equipment, but we could even have almost kind of like a visual representation that you could be able to click on a specific tag that you've made and be able to see your dashboards that way. So that's kind of the ideas, that you can be able to walk through and see the information as opposed to just seeing them on a screen. You can kind of get that context of how is the building, is it large, is it small, floor plans, those kinds of ideas is where I'm real excited to see where this comes. And then even to the point where, what if you could get into the point where you could look at controlling, what can you do and what can you see? So I'll be quiet now, because this is, like I said, I could be here for hours and hours and hours on this, but that's the exciting piece, is now you're no longer just seeing it a flat screen. You're actually can see it within context. You can actually almost it's like a virtual tour of the building, and you can be doing stuff with it that way.
I align with you, Chris. I think it's and I can use this example. We provide a downloadable viewer of the iGuide that you can self-host or house or archive. And so some clients do that because they want to house the data themselves. They want to lock it, they're tight-fisted on that data, but it becomes a static piece of, it's like a Polaroid. Now I'm really dating myself. It's like, it's a snapshot, a point in time. And so it's not dynamic. And where I think this is going is it's more of a living document. It's more dynamic, even though the images are static at a point in time, but that live data feeds into it, being able to update it, going back as a repository or a dashboard for understanding and for communication, and then adding more elements to be able to communicate back and forth. Because really you're managing a building, you're telling a story about how to manage that building, and your data coming in there live it makes that more of a living, I guess, document, if you will, of that space.
Yeah, I think another area of opportunity, we're experimenting with this already, is computer vision off of that imagery. And so we're working with our own data science team and some other partners to actually work through these panoramas and look at different types of assets and labeling things automatically, or identifying damage, things that may need attention. So that just the power of computer vision technology is really accelerating, and it works very well with this iGuide technology.
Super cool. Cool. Well, we're right at 45 minutes. I haven't seen any questions from our attendees. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, I'll turn it to the rest of the panelists if you guys have any questions. Doesn't look like anybody does, and that's fine. So
They're in awe.
Yeah, no one's ever complained about a meeting in the movie. So well, I want to personally thank everyone for their time. I think this is really cool. It's really exciting. If anyone would like to see a live demo or anything else, please reach out to us. We're happy to show it off. We think it's a pretty cool product. So thank you, everyone. You guys have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Clayton.
Right.
Thanks,
Thanks so
iGuide.
much.
Thanks, guys.